Hi, and welcome to The Actor's Voice, Conversations on Acting and Singing with John and Russ. Today we are here with Dr. Melanie Cain. She is the founder and artistic director of Fresco Opera Theatre in Madison, Wisconsin, and also the founder and guru of all for Maven Vocal Arts there as well. We are so thrilled to be speaking with you today, Melanie. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
So our first question to everybody is, how did you get here? Where are you coming from? How did you get involved in singing? And what led you to where you are today?
Well, I was born in go way back. Okay, so that's kind of important though, because I was born in a small town in Iowa, Carroll, Iowa, middle of a cornfield, literally. And I would say percentage-wise of people that listen to opera there, like 0.2%. Like, I never listened to opera there. I didn't even know what it was. There is like country music. That's pretty much what we listen to. Was into musical theater a little bit in high school, but that was just because I was in Greece. My first role was Marty Maraschino.
Nice.
Yeah, my favorite role to date, for sure. So I was a little bit exposed to that then. Didn't have a voice teacher. We didn't have voice teachers in that town. It's a town of 8,000 people. Just had our chorus teacher in school. So I took a few lessons from him, decided to go to Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, very big choral college. So it was very, very chorus-based singing there. But I got into Christine Seitz's studio. She was my first like true real teacher. And she heard me and said, you know, you should sing some opera. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I tried it and it just like was like I was home. It just like fit my voice. So that's what we worked on. Actually started out as a flutist in college and a singer. And my major was art and my minor was music. And so by the time I was a junior, I was double majoring in art and music, so I couldn't decide. So that's what I ended up with, which later on makes total sense, but at the time it made not a lot of sense to people. And then I went to Madison for my master's and my doctorate, and I just kind of stayed here. You don't get out from this place, apparently.
You can't leave.
Yeah, I can't leave. You're just stuck. It's a really central place. It just made sense to kind of settle here, and my husband works here, and so it just made sense to be here. So this is where I am.
Well, what brought you to Madison for your master's degree? Why not University of Iowa or somewhere else?
Well, I auditioned at a lot of places. My top choices were. My top choice was Northwestern. I don't know why. I just wanted to really go there. I auditioned at Iowa as well, and I really liked Iowa. I just ended up coming here. I got waitlisted at Northwestern, and they're like, just come here and take a year and take lessons, and then we'll re-audition. And I was just like, oh God, no, I'm not doing that. It's not my personality to like wait. And so I was just like, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. So decided to go to Madison. I'm not really sure why. It's actually where Christine went, my voice teacher in my undergrad. So that kind of made sense, but it just, I don't know, I just chose it. I'm glad I did.
Seems to have worked out okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk moving from the master's to the doctorate. Was that a fairly seamless transition? Was that a purposeful one, or was one of, as many of us do, I don't know what to do next, so I guess I'll just continue in education?
I always wanted to get my doctorate, but I have to say it was not a plan really at all until like probably that fourth semester of my master's. For me, it was more, I was PAing, I was assistant director of the opera there. And so my mentor there, Bill Farlow, was like, you should stay for your doctorate. I can get you, the chunk of money that you need to stay here. And so I'm like, okay, well, you're going to give it to me for free. Might as well just do it. And so I was just learning so much from him. I'm so grateful for him, and just being the assistant director in that you know, as I did a lot of ADing for him. So I just learned so much, and it was just invaluable. So it's like, well, I might as well stay here for a couple years and write a friggin' thesis. And that was not my favorite part, but you will get through it if you're working on that. Not a writer, never claimed I was, but yeah, it was just kind of one of those things that was like, you should just continue on and get your doctorate. And it's like, okay, sure, why not? So then you're going to ask, what did I do after that?
Actually, I was going to ask, you obviously, you know, most of us go into, you know, these graduate degrees as a singer, as a soprano. Mm-hmm. You go in to get your degree. What kind of led you to the assistant director position? Was that something you were interested in before, or was it
not really? PA that no, it was just the PA position that was open. And so when I first came here, I didn't have any support. I didn't get any sort of TA-ship, PA-ships. I got a little bit of scholarship, but it wasn't much. And I was out of state, and so that first semester was rough because it was like, okay, your bill is now $35,000, you know. It's like, okay, I'm just going to take a... And so it just took me that first semester, I think, to kind of prove myself, and then just got really close to the director there. My first role there was the mother in Hansel and Gretel. And then once I got that, then they found some money for me, and the money was the PA-ship and the opera program. So that's what I took, and I'm glad I did. So I wasn't really like searching for that; it just kind of landed, and then the director thing just kind of happened from there.
What is it about directing, or I guess ADing first, that really kind of captured your attention? Something that you've kept up for a while now. What grabs you and makes you want to do this more?
So I think for me, I mean, at the time of doing that, it was a means to pay my scholarship or pay my tuition. And so at the time it was really like, I'll just do what I'm supposed to do, and my director just told me what to do. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I found that I really loved like finding all the props and putting all of that together and making sure everybody was where they needed to be. And I really liked that kind of like administering, I guess. And later on realizing like that was my art degree, like bubbling up, right? Like crafting cheap props and like figuring out how to make, you know, what are we going to use to have the Despina's like thingamajigger, and what do we call that show? Yeah, Cosi, that's it. But you know, like, so things like that. And it's like, we have like no money, right? And so it's like, we only have like a little tiny room of props. And so I just love like trying to craft things and find it. And obviously, again, that was my art degree. But again, it was like still, I was always about performing. And so while I was there, it was just a means to get my degree in performance. I did end up minoring in opera production though, so in my doctorate. So that kind of became an underlying theme. But then I got out of my doctorate, and we can talk about like the journey. I always tell people my journey was a little bit different. And I didn't follow the path everybody did, but it wasn't because I didn't want to. It just didn't work out for me. So like I got out of doctorate and didn't really have a lot of performance on my resume other than all of the roles I did at UW. And I am to this day have had the most roles there out of anyone. That's my claim to fame. But you get out of school, right? And it's like, that's the only thing you have. Now, I did not have the money to do any sort of summer programming. Again, small girl from Iowa, small town girl. Like, I worked every summer, and I had to in order to pay the bills for that year. I mean, even though I had the scholarships and things, I still had, you know, you have to like live. And so I never got to do the summer programs, the yaps, all of that. So I came out of my doctorate with, a lot of roles behind me, but it was all in the university system. So anyway, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start doing the audition circuit, right? And where I started was competitions. So did the Met competitions and every competition I could find and afford to go to, and wasn't getting very far. I got in a lot of finals, but I always got the, like so many times, just give it 10 years. Oh my God, blah, 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 just give it 10 years. Like I heard 10 years so much in my life during that year. Part of that was I am a lyrico spinto, moving into more dramatic, like wasn't even sure at the time because again, like they were right, give it 10 years. I didn't feel like my voice settled until like recently, and now I'm 41, I guess. 41, yeah, I'm 41.
Think about it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Once you hit like 35, it doesn't even matter anymore. But yeah, so like I just recently felt like, oh, okay, my voice is where it needs to be. Okay, so then what do you do as a 28-year-old spinto who now is like considered, might as well like retire in the competition circuit, right? Because it's like you're old, and that was the year, like the year after that is when the Met, like once you're 30, it was done, right?
Yep.
And so like I had one more year at the Met competition, and so that was like, I hate that about that circuit. Looking back at the time, I was just frantic because it's like oh my God, I'm at the end of my life as a singer at 20-8. What is that? That's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just that whole year was really awful. And I mean, I got a few things. I never won a competition, but I like got to the finals or whatever. It was fine, but it's like at the end of the day, that just like wasn't me. I wasn't happy at all. Like doing the competitive circuit just made me not want to sing. And so I ended up not singing for like a year after that. I didn't win the last Met competition I could do because I was old, and just got like some really cruddy feedback. It was a really horrible experience. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to teach, whatever. So I started teaching out of my home. That was it. But I didn't sing. It was awful. I probably wasn't a very good teacher at the time either, because I could feel like bitterness, like I'm teaching this, but I'm not singing. I don't know. It was bad. And so then, okay, do you want to hear the story of Fresco starting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here's the story. So again, like not really singing, just a voice teacher in my home. So my husband and I, we're gonna call him Frank. That is his actual. So
Names are changed to protect the innocent.
No.
Oh.
There's nothing innocent about Frank.
So we were on a bike ride, and we biked down to the Willie Street area. And if you know like what the Willie Street area is in Madison, it's very eclectic, we will say. It's what they call the hippies. Anyway, they have this thing called the Willie Street Festival, and they have the Willie Street Parade. Now I'm gonna send you some pictures. I don't know if you guys can superimpose like pictures on this. I don't know how fancy you're getting, but like, it's crazy town. Let's just say the beginning of this parade is a dude that has changed his car, pimped it into like Pimp My Ride. Do you remember that show in like MTV? So like he made it into a bubble machine, but the bubbles like came out of a tuba. Like it's insane. Like that is the perfect like analogy of this parade. So it's that, and stilt walkers, and just citizens dressed up in whatever weird thing they want to dress up as. It's crazy town, and I loved it. So we're watching this thing, and I don't know who said this, I don't remember, but we collectively said, what if opera was this open and cool and like just accepting? Because everyone was like, yeah, you do you be you. And you know, I just at the time didn't think opera was super accepting like that. Still kind of don't. But so we were just like, yeah, that would be really cool to have an opera company that would just like thought outside the box and have fun and made it super accessible, and not in the way that a lot of them say we're very accessible. Like, they're really not. Anyway, I won't name names. You can beat me out if you do. But anyway, so we were driving home, and Jonathan knows my husband, okay? So he can totally like say this is probably true. So by the time we got home, he had a business plan ready, right?
Of course he did.
Of course, yeah. And so he's like, we're doing this. And I'm like, okay, you know? And so I'm like into it, but I'm also at the same time stuck in my world of this is the journey you take, right? And to me, my journey was done because it didn't compare to every other person. Like, you do the yaps, you get your master's, if you go do your doctorate, it means you don't have anywhere else to go and you're a loser. And I've heard that before, which is not true. Whoever's working on your doctorate, get it, it's worth it. But it's like you get that stigma, and it's just like, oh, well, you didn't do this yap, and you didn't do this summer program, and you didn't do this, and you don't get all those check marks by the time you're like old and gray 29-year-old. Like, you're nothing, right? And so to me, like, I was still in that world of, okay, I'm done. And so like for the first like while with Fresco, I would say even like the first 3 to 4 seasons, which is just ridiculous because by the time you get to that, you're like, we've been doing this forever. I still was like worried, well, what will the opera fans think? And what will like my professors think? And oh no, you know. And then I just had to get over that. And so I did. And the minute I did, it was so awesome. It was just like, I just get to create and I don't have to worry about the path. But we're here to talk about the journey. So,
no, we are, but I think that transition is a really important one because it's so true for us as performers as well. So having that mindset of not worrying about what will the critic think, what will my voice teacher think, what will the person in the audience think, and just being free to say, I'm going to give what I have to give, and it's for me, and if somebody else enjoys it, that's awesome. But we have so many singers who are weighed down by expectations, and sometimes real expectations, but sometimes they're just self-imposed and completely false. So how do we get to that point of letting it all go and saying, hey, I don't care, I'm just going to create great music because I love it? How do we do that?
Well, so for me, it was really about defining what success was for me as a singer, and not what success was for my profs, what success was for an opera director of the Met or a judge of the Met competition or opera director of wherever I was auditioning. Or like, to them, they have their own like idea of what success is as a singer. And so you have to, as a singer, decide what that is and be okay as little as it is or as how big it is. Like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't like strive to be at the Met. If that is your idea of like, boom, I'm successful, great, awesome. Then you're gonna probably fail. I'm just saying, it's like you're saying I'm gonna be a rock star and that's it, right? Russ is gonna say something.
And I think it's just super telling because that is, like you said, it's not for a long time nobody established that your journey was here. There was, this is the way you do it, and the Met is the goal, and if you miss it, then you failed. And if you get a doctorate and you go teach, or you run a company that is doing something differently, you're the loser who didn't do it right. Things that are innovative and shaking up the industry just a little bit.
Yeah. I heard a little bit of that. Did you get that, Jonathan?
I got almost none of that.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Suddenly it sounded like you got really slurred, and then it went away, and then it kind of cropped in for a second again.
Then I'm going to start again, just saying it's neat to hear about people who said, who didn't believe that one path was the only way, that the Met wasn't the only way make it as an artist, that running a company and doing something innovative was some kind of cop out, and it's instead pushing the bar. It's nice to hear about it.
Yeah, and that's so true. Like, and like I said again, if that's your goal and you're like, I really want to get to that, I'll tell you, if the Met called tomorrow and it's like, hey, we want you to come sing, great, sounds fun. But like, it's not like, if I don't get that, it's not the end of the world for me. And that I realized one day, like, I have never said I really want to sing at the Met. Again, like, I didn't even know what the Met was until like my master's. Like, even in my undergrad, I'm like, I'm just singing some really cool music. I don't know. And nobody really told me, like, the Met competition then was like, we didn't really go there. It just, I don't know, it just wasn't the thing. And then by the time I got to my master's, like, you have to win the Met competition, and if you don't, you're done. And it just had this like, oh my God, you know. And when I didn't, then it was like, well, crap. I didn't get to that next step that everybody's supposed to get to. But then, you know, I started looking at people's resumes once I started running a company myself. I'm like, none of these people have run the Met competition. Like, who are these lucky seven? Where are they? Nobody knows. Guess what? They all work in Europe. They're all in Germany.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like, go do you, you know. But no, it's back to the success thing. Like, it took me a while to understand like what that meant for me. And I think it's okay if you can't answer that question until you can answer that question. Right? Like, you can be on the journey and be cool just going, I'm not really sure what I want yet. I'm not really sure what would make me really happy as a singer. And that's okay. As long as that's okay, as long as it's your like definition and not someone else's, not your professor's, not Classical Singer magazine, Opera, whatever you're reading or, you know, watching. It's got to be your true, like, this would make me happy. And it might take a while to find that, and that's okay.
What I love about this field, and I say this field so wide open purposefully here, because there's so much that we can do as a singer or as an artist. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. What can we do? What ways can we find to use our interest and to use our skills to find success, and however we want to define that? It's unfortunate that there are those in this industry and in education as well that we will call the gatekeepers, and they say this is the path, and if you follow this path, then it is success. And the fact of the matter is, ain't nobody statistically following that. And there are ways to be happy, fulfilled, and actually very well known and very successful that never touches a competition, that never touches a young artist program, or certainly any pay to sing. And still you can be singing all over the country.
Right. And and that's why I think this is so great what you're doing, because you don't get to hear that from the people that are out there just doing what they think is successful, right? Because we're not out there going, look at me. Well, I am right now, but like, look what I'm doing. You know, like, we just do. We just create and we do. Like, we don't need to be on the front cover of Opera News to feel like but then you have all those young artists coming up that think that's what you have to do. And if you don't do that, you're nothing. And I'm still being told by people, like, you can't do that. Like, I've been told that so many times with the shows that we do, like, you can't do that. What makes you think you can do that? And this is coming from people that they're not musicians. They're not actors or singers or theater people. These are like audience members. Or I will say the dreaded donor who thinks because they gave you money to do what you're doing that you have to do it this way, instead of, you can't do that. I have some feedback for you. And so at first that's like, oh, okay, shoot, like, but I realized, again, like, it took a good 5 years, that if I'm getting people telling me that, I'm on to something really good. But you have to be really, really brave to go, okay, I got to get through that, like, wade through the water of the gatekeepers, right? And get to that other side where there's like people that love it and singers love it. And there's performers that actually want to do this cool new stuff and get out of the box. And I think the singers that I've worked with, I've gotten so much feedback from them, like, thank you for that. Like, I grew as a singer because I'll talk about one of your scenes, but like put on a wheel of death and spun upside down while I'm singing. Like,
that wasn't me. I didn't
no,
do that.
Well, he was the one throwing the dagger.
I was throwing knives.
You were throwing automated.
I was pantomiming.
Yes.
That's really what it was.
But like, I push those boundaries. Go ahead, Russ.
No, I was just going to say that's exactly what it is. I love to hear about the people who are pushing the boundaries and moving outside of kind of the stodgier old model of this is what opera has to look like. This is what theater has to look like. Mm-hmm. This is what performing has to look like.
Right.
Those you're like when you're starting to ruffle feathers of the gatekeepers and the old guard who don't like the change because they're not.
Mm-hmm. And I will say it's not just the old guard. It's also ruffling the feathers of some of the singers that audition for me. Like, they'll come in and be like, what are you guys doing? Oh, I don't know. I've actually had singers tell me, I don't want to audition for you because it's not a real role. I've heard that several times. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not a real role? Like, we're doing a show in a theater and it's gonna be an audience and that's a role, right? And they're like, yeah, but it's not like the actual role, because we do a lot of pastiche. And so it's like, I can't really put on my resume, blah, blah, blah. I can't really put, I've done Despina. I don't know why Despina is in my head today. I've never sung that role, nor would I ever sing that role. I don't know, I feel like why? Okay. But like, they want to be able to say on their resume, I've sung this role. And that goes again back to that, this is what needs to be on your resume. We need to see that you've done this. Instead of looking at that and going, wow, they were in a world premiere performance of this brand new pastiche, or they're in this world premiere of, like, we did an entire new opera, Queen of the Night. Like, hello, like, see, yeah, right? So, but it's like, you can say you played that role for the first time and they're still like, but I need this on my resume. And so it's just like, I've had that a lot. And I just want to say to the singers out there, get over that. This pandemic has opened up. I shouldn't say it's opened up. It's like ground zeroed this entire industry, because we are all on the same level right now. There is no Met. There is no San Francisco Opera. Like, there's no Santa Fe right now. We are all online. And that is a platform right now that is like evened out. We don't get to hide behind those huge theaters or those companies. We all have to come up with creativity. I've seen so much creativity in the smaller companies. Not so much in the bigger company. Like, the Met's giving away a lot of free performances, but it's like, are they creating something new? I haven't seen it yet. So it just shows you, like, money and $1 billion budget doesn't matter so much when there's a world, like a global pandemic happens. So prepare for that. But what I'm saying is we're super flexible because we do different things, and we're not afraid to say, okay, now we have to just move into this brand new whatever theater it is right now. And I guess, like, we've moved away from, for quite a while, even doing a show in a theater. Like, and I think that's kind of where Fresco, it'll maybe back once theaters open, but even before that, I mean, we're doing operas in garages. We're doing operas out on, a peninsula at a fire circle. Like, we're starting to see, like, ooh, we can do this opera totally different places. It doesn't have to have that necessary sit in your seat, lights go down, blah, 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 again, that stodgy idea of what, no clapping until the very end. Don't make a sound.
And I do think that there is a place for opera being done in the way that it was envisioned. You know, there's a place for that, but that doesn't mean that we can't do it some other way.
And it doesn't mean it's worth less the other way, right?
Absolutely.
Like I love opera, and I've gone to the Met and watched an opera, and I've gone to this and watched. I love seeing opera in its original context, of course. The problem is, I was seeing, when I was in that year and a half of like performing and auditioning, and I'm hearing a cat.
That's mine.
I love it. Performing and auditioning, and seeing like these audiences, I would look out, and they were older, quite older. I would say a lot of them were like falling asleep, but they were there not because of the art form necessarily, but because of the social status of it.
Mm-hmm.
So performing for that was like really not fun. And I realized also like later, like my performance success again, I realized was making that connection with people. Like when I can look out or afterwards talk to somebody and they're like, that was really great, like you made me cry, or that reminded me of this, or I loved that scene, or blah blah blah. Like to me that was success. And so then I realized, oh, my success is connecting with people. I can do that anywhere that I perform, anywhere. Like it
Absolutely.
doesn't have to be like in a theater. Is it fun to be in a theater? Yeah, super fun. But that's not, again, like the only venue or the end-all place, right? So again, that comes back to that success idea. I'm rambling. What did we what we're talking about?
I don't remember how we got to there, but it was a good ramble. But it does bring up an interesting question now of art for art's sake, which is what we're talking about. How do I find my joy, my bliss, my pleasure in being a creator, and what do I define success as, and how do we come to terms with the fact that that might not lead to financial success or independence as an artist? And do those two things have to be mutually exclusive? And as we talk to some of the gatekeepers tend to have the donors and they tend to have the money. Does that mean maybe we should play some politics so we can get some of that funding to do the things that we want to do? And does doing your own thing inevitably lead to the starving artist mentality?
Okay.
All the questions, I know.
Okay, so number one, you're probably not going to make a ton of money singing. I'm going to drop it. I'm sorry. Like, that sucks and it needs to change. Even as we have seen huge companies, like I'm going to pick on the Met again, but like we get to the pandemic and what do? They cancel people's contracts.
Uh-huh.
No, they already have that money. They had that money a long time ago. They could have paid off your contract so you could live for the next 2 months, but they didn't. And so even those people that, let's say that is the epitome, because how many times, let's be honest, have you been told you should sing at the Met? Like I can't even tell you how many times somebody has said that to me. And it's not like the gatekeeper's telling me that. It's like my mom, you know,
Right.
or like Aunt Mary, like, you should sing at the Met. Like, okay, thank you. Yes, I'll take that as a compliment, but they don't understand like what that means. But so even in that sense of the top tier, they're not making money. So that's, first of all, you have to get over the fact that that's probably not going to be your source of livable income. It may be, and you may be able to figure out how to do it. But most of the people making a living in the arts are the administrators, are the director, not me, the directors of big companies, you know, because unless you can find a company where you are a company artist, or like you're, for instance, like a chorister at the Lyric, or like you are you have a contract and like, I'm going to be in all of these productions and that's cool. You could probably do that. But being a freelance where you're bopping here and there, it's rough because you have, to me, it's the travel expense and all of that. Now, if you can get to the point where you have an agent, that would help a lot. And there are singers that, I'm going to get such backlash, but there are singers that can make it as a singer. But that's kind of rare from what I've seen. I don't know. So what do I have to like teach? I shouldn't say I have to teach. I love to teach, but I created, you know, a studio. And so I get to teach. That is my main source of income. And then to me, then I get to create without that donor telling me what I have to do. I can kind of just create and make the money I need to make to put on the show. Like I will say, as director of Fresco, I've made minus $10,000. Because I usually just put it all back into the next show, whatever's left. And that's just who we are, I guess. My husband has the corporate gig with the insurance. So I mean, that's the reality of America. So again, like, move to Germany. That is it. Like, just move to Germany and you're fine. No, don't do that. I mean, you can do that if you want. But then, again, like, that's not the only formula.
Talked to so many. We've talked to so many fabulous artists who have multiple gigs, who have, you know, their survival gig, and then there are who have, you know, string multiple survival gigs together or multiple contracts together.
Yep.
I think it's true. You know, you do what you do, but it's probably not going to be your sole source. And I think a lot of us that did move into directing, musical directing, some kind of arts admin, did it out of a desire to drive the art forward as something other than a performer, even if we still
right.
I think that's just great insight.
Well, I think we also need to speak to our children here, the prospective college students, the prospective graduates who are considering, do I want to go and pursue music? And as we're telling them the doom and gloom, and I have this conversation 100 times a year, telling them if you're going to go into music, you're not going to make money as a performer. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go into music. Because what other skills do you learn? What other marketable skills do you learn through the process in terms of how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you schedule yourself? How do you finish tasks? How do you self-start? How do you network? How do you learn on the fly? How do you remain adaptable and creative? You know, these things that will make you a better employee for your mogul job or whatever you choose to do, that music teaches you in a way that you cannot learn elsewhere. Now, is that the most practical skill? You know, are we learning, you know, taking 4 classes and reading spreadsheets? No, but if you're a musician, you haven't used a spreadsheet, you're not doing it right.
Yes.
Sorry, had to get on my soapbox for a second.
Listen to Professor Tendring. learn your damn spreadsheets.
Right. No, I mean, that was a part of my process very early on of figuring out how do I have to learn. So I've got to learn a senior recital, and I've got the mind and memory of a 95-year-old man. How am I going to get all this learned and memorized?
Well, and I think, to be honest, those are skills. I didn't take a class in that stuff. But if you can get in the right school that has mentors that's going to teach you how to do that, that's awesome.
Yep.
Because you do have to, if you are going to, like Russell said, like splice together these paying gigs to somehow equal, you know, enough to pay your rent, like you're going to have to be organized. You're going to have to know how to budget. You're going to have to know how to learn your damn music. Like, if you don't know how to do that, we ain't gonna teach you, right? And John and I could talk after this about situations we've been in, but like it's you have to, like, those are things no one's going to hold your hand and tell you to do. And so that is where you learn it, is college, right? You learn, oh, I have to learn this role for opera workshop next week. Okay, like, and then you just learn how you learn. But like, I have never used a spreadsheet to learn a role, so you need to like talk to me about that. But like, if that works for you, awesome, and you can hand that on to somebody that does work for them, you know. But we all have to find our own ways. Like, I am the worst memorizer in the world, and so I have to I draw freaking pictures and like make a comic book of what the hell's happening. But it's like I had to figure that out through kind of that nest of undergrad and graduate school. And hopefully you get to a place that is caring enough to guide you through that and be okay with you learning that process. I was. Well, there were some professors that were kind of cool, but that's part of the process too, though, like learning how to deal with poops. And because there's a lot of directors out there that are also, ugh, and you just have to learn how to deal with that. But what was the question again?
I was just on my high horse about why people should still be music majors, even though it's not financially viable.
Yeah, and I think I've had that question too a lot, because I teach a lot of teenagers. I would say 85% not going to go into music. They're just doing it because they love it, or they want to get into the damn show choir. I thank Glee, because I have had a studio filled with teenage girls for 10 years because of Glee. But I also like hate Glee. We're like, when are we gonna be able to just sit in the chorus room all day and like come up with our show tune ideas? Because they're all like so disappointed in what show choir actually turns out to be. They're like, I have to go in at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning for rehearsal because I'm not allowed to take it during the day. Anyway, that's our job as teachers. They're like, it's not Glee. But
and I love show choir. I gotta say, but
I do too.
going back to a second, what John was saying, yeah, it's great, isn't it? But you know, John, you said, why should we still be music majors if it's not financially viable? And I think what's interesting about it, and what I always tell students is that's the lie a system tells you, because it doesn't funnel you directly into a single career path. It opens the doors to a myriad of possible options that are not going to be dictated to you because it's a journey. It's not, I'm going to major in this and then go and work for a corporation that was designed to do that one thing and only that one thing. It's the gateway to a journey, you know, this start down a path that could go just about it.
Absolutely. And my question was somewhat rhetorical there, because that's how it's phrased, is you can't make money. As a musician, you can't go and make money, so you shouldn't have that as a degree. And I would say, no, that's not true. In fact, if you look at employment rates for people coming out of a music degree, the overall employment rates tend to be higher than the national average in other degrees. It's just not specifically, I'm making money as a professional musician. It's just one path that led me to whatever my success was. And
but like, how many of you know people that have a degree in botany and don't do anything in botany, right? Like, so many people in their undergrad, like, I don't know why music of the arts gets such a bad rap for that, but like, I know so many people that have an undergrad degree and just absolutely opposite of what they ended up doing in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to say, hey, you might not end up being in music, but like what John said is that opens up different ways of learning and you might end up being in the administrative side of things. You might end up being a lawyer. It doesn't matter, like, but that love of the arts is always going to be underneath that. Like my dentist, for instance, this is a crazy story. My dentist Didn't know he was in any sort of musical or dance or anything, right? So I go to the Nutcracker at Madison Ballet, and I'm like, my freaking dentist is up there, like during the party scene, and be like, you know, dance. And I'm like, that's my dentist. What? And so next time I went there, I was like, hey, I think I saw you dancing in the Nutcracker. Am I crazy? And he's like, oh no, yeah, I do that every year. I love it. He did it all through like college, like did dancing, and it's like, he's a dentist, but he's still, it's part of who he is, and who knows. But yeah, so major in music if you want to major in music. My biggest thing though that I have, because again, I work with a lot of teenagers, and they think they're going to go into their undergrad and sing Hamilton for 4 years.
Yep.
I'm not again. We can talk about Hamilton. I have to mention Hamilton because you have to mention Hamilton at least 10 times a day. It's like now a mandated thing, I think. But just like wear your mask, you have to mention Hamilton. But and great, you might go on to music theater, but I do tell people, like, if you want to be in music theater, you got to find a college that is versed in that or has some kind of music theater program. And you know, when I was looking for colleges, even even 5 years ago, it wasn't as, you couldn't really find one. There's like one or two, and now it's like everywhere, right? And so I tell those teenage girls or boys, I have boys too, I don't pick on the girls, but like they want to go into college, like, should I go here or there? It's like, okay, no, don't go there unless you want to sing classical music, which is fine. But if they're not into that, don't go there. Your first day, you're gonna be like, oh my God, right? So find a program that suits your voice, and that is the program that's gonna bring you into the correct style that you want to sing in. And that's my biggest thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I do think that we're seeing a changing of the guard that's happening. We are seeing some people who are starting to embrace CCM and musical theater technique and stylings, who are starting to say bel canto is not the only healthy way to sing. So we are starting to see that. What's that?
It's not.
It's not. I know, it's shocking. You have to have a low
that
larynx.
was created in 1825.
I know.
It's not
unbelievable.
right.
But we're also starting to see colleges who are looking at musical theater as potentially their next cash cow. And so we're seeing places with, hey, I've got my 4, 5, 6 voice teachers on staff, on faculty, who have had wonderful, sometimes operatic careers, but we need to add a musical theater component. So we're going to make a curriculum for musical theater, but we're not going to hire a specialist.
Right.
And we're not going to hire somebody who's actually sung it. And so now we're going to make these opera singers and opera teachers try to teach musical theater. And there are dozens of these programs around the country. Don't go there.
It's true. It's so true. I'm president of NATS in Wisconsin. So I have this, NATS has really come a long way, even since I think I'm on my 3rd year. I think I'm on my last term. No, I love NATS, but it's got a long way to go, but it's come a far way with the music theater. I mean, when I first started in NATS, which I've been in NATS probably 7, 8 years, but at first, like, music theater was really, like, I'm in the tally room tallying the scores, we would get people that say, I'm opting out of even judging this person because they're singing music. Like, it was that, like, so one camp or the other. And I've seen such a change in that, which is awesome, but I will say we still have a far way to go. And you're right, there are those universities and private schools that are like, ooh, like, people want to sing Hamilton, so let's just say, yeah, you know, professors, you just take like a 2-week course and crash course in belting, and then we got this, right? And it's bad. So yeah, make sure you're going to the place you want to go that is going to teach you the style that you want to sing. If they don't teach the style you want to sing, don't go there, because you're going to be very unhappy. But if they sing classical, great, go to classical. I'm not saying anything bad about classical, because Jesus, that's what I do. But just know that there are different places. Yeah. There. Next question.
Next question. Moving on. Was there, so I'm going to totally shift gears for just a second.
Glitching here.
Yeah, we are. I'm going to totally shift gears for a second. And let's talk about your voice and your development as a singer. Was there ever a moment that was kind of one of those seminal, suddenly some things make more sense now, that changed your opinion of your voice or your trajectory as a singer?
God. Not really. It's such, for me, there wasn't this like aha, because my voice, again, I have a voice type that takes quite a while to like settle in. So it was just such a long journey to like figure out what my voice even was. There wasn't ever like aha moments. I would say the moment, again, I'm going to go back to that idea of letting go of what success is, but the minute I let go of that idea of like, oh, I'm singing this aria, but I shouldn't because it's not like super, super in my Fach, and oh my God, you know, then I'm not going to be it. The minute I let that go and just kind of sang whatever I wanted and just played around is when I actually found the very specific Fach I should have been in. And I'm not saying go sing whatever you want. My God, if you're soubrette, don't go sing Wagner because you're like, like, don't go hurt yourself, but like play around, and God, please sing some German lieder, and please sing some Broadway, and sing different things. Like, find just different ways to use your voice, and know that you kind of probably have a spot that feels the best. I'm not against the Fox system, but I think it's really kind of stifling to a lot of singers, because then it's like, okay, well, congratulations, you have 5 roles you can choose from now. And to me, that's really just stifling to the voice, because we can make all different sounds. I think I did go and do an Estel training. I trained in 1st and 2nd levels of that. Does everybody know what Estel is? Probably not. So for those of you that don't know what that is, it's just another way of looking at singing kind of more scientifically. It's really kind of based more in the contemporary styles, although it doesn't have to be, but it has kind of become that path. But it kind of blew my mind. That was a blow my mind moment. Not necessarily for my voice so much until like as I started practicing some of the things, but more like I went there after the first day. I went to the hotel and cried, because I was like, oh my God. And this was like years after my doctorate was done. I was like, I was in school for 9 years and everything I learned is wrong. And oh my God, you know, because I was very based in that bel canto thing, right? It's lots of imagery and lots of like, drop your larynx, close your soft palate. And so at first I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know anything. But then, like, I went back the second day because Frank's like, get your ass up. We spent $500 on this. And so I went back and then it was like, oh, I see. So to me, then I was like, okay, there's different recipes. Like, I can sing with a high larynx and a closed or open soft palate, and I sound like music theater. Oh my God, like you can like change those things. And so it wasn't that what I learned was wrong. It was just that what I learned was one way and how it was the best way for my voice. But I realized like, oh my God, like there's all different things I can do with my voice. And let me tell you something, I found my chest voice at the ripe old age of 31. I didn't even know I had a chest voice. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like before that didn't understand what that meant. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I gotta just not sing in my head voice anymore, which sounds so like, you know, obvi, but like, I just never quite found that person that just say, hey, just talk. It's just talking. Oh, okay. My nose has to be open. Oh, I didn't know that like actually existed. But like, I will say, so for my voice then, because I don't sing music theater regularly, I was able to find my chest voice by just thinking a little bit different on how my soft palate worked, or how my larynx had to shift a little bit differently. Oh, okay, I can do that shift now into those more dramatic kind of notes that I needed for my characters. And so studying music theater for a while, because I was teaching it, all of a sudden I had that sound. And so I would say, find those, just play around with your voice, even if nobody ever hears it. And it's like back in the depths of the practice rooms where like 3 a.m, you know, make those ugly sounds and the sounds you think are weird, because you will find that it connects to the things that you're practicing. And so for me, I think that was an aha moment of like, just like, oh, okay, I don't have to sing exactly the way someone tried to make me sing. And they weren't wrong. I'm not like putting them down. It's just, that was the recipe for what I was singing at the time. And I guess I didn't realize there was other recipes. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It really does.
Go sing Hamilton. I snuck Hamilton in there again.
So now we're at what, 2 or 3 mentions? And I think that probably could dovetail to our final question, Russ, unless you got something else.
No, I think this has been awesome. I really love. I don't know if you know John, obviously. You know, I was a classical person who drifted into theaters, and John, that was, you know, who was a classical person who's drifted into.
We're losing you, man.
Everything.
Drift into everything.
If you talk differently, cutting out.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit. We got John drifted into something.
Everything.
Yeah, see, I knew it. He drifted into everything.
He did. You drifted into everything. So
pretty true.
I was just saying the crossover is super rich. You know, we talked to so many actors who, you know, had to learn to use their voice differently, and so many singers who suddenly realized there's more than one way to use their voice. It's a path of discovery.
Oh yeah, and it opens up. You want to talk about making a living at it? I mean, think about like, oh, I could do all these different things. I could do voiceover work. I can do this. I can do that, because I know how to use my voice in different ways. And so I think it's so important. I think that's where eventually I think we're just going to have singers again, and not such a distinct music theater. I'm opera versus music theater. You know, there's just this clash, and I think we don't have to be that way. We can sing both. We can sing all. It's fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, what's your last question?
So last question, what advice would you give to the young or emerging singer as they're going down this path?
That there is no path. Boom. Done.
Mic drop.
There's no path. Make your own path and be okay with it. And you're going to have little demons along the way saying, you can't do that. You're not on the right path. You really should have this on your resume. Don't get your doctorate. It means you can't sing. Like all of those things. Just take that advice and throw it in the trash and continue on your way. Like there is advice you should take, of course. But if you have that inkling, like, that just doesn't sound like it's right for me, it's not right for you. So just go. Make your own path. Make failures. Hit walls. Like just piss a bunch of people off. It's the way to go. Is that good? Just piss people off.
That's great. That's great. That's our tagline right now.
I like it.
Well, Melanie, it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us tonight.
Of course, it's fun.